Hey everyone, today we're going to be looking at pages 12 and 13 in your lesson book. Both of these pages teach us a new note, and the thing I want to tell you up front is that you've been used to playing with a certain finger pattern or a certain spacing of fingers since you were fourth graders learning your instrument. So if you're a violin or a viola player, you've been used to playing with a finger pattern that looks kind of like this. You have Let me put my bow down here. You have your first finger and then a big space to two, and your third finger is right next to your second finger. If you look at the stickers, if you have stickers on your instrument, you'll see that that's how the spacing is with your stickers. If you're a cello, you're used to playing your first finger, skipping second, and then playing 3 and 4. And bass is normally playing open 1 and 4. Okay, so you're used to doing that. This year and a little bit of last year, we started looking at a different finger pattern where if you're a violin, this is the ones where we started playing those natural notes, so F natural and C natural. If you're a violin, now your finger or a viola, now your finger patterns look like this. So your first and second fingers are close, and your third finger stays where it normally is. So you went from this to this. Similarly, if you were a cello, instead of doing 1, 3, 4, you started doing 1, 2, 4. And so what we're going to learn as we continue through this book is that there's all different types of finger patterns and different places that you can put your fingers, and those will create different notes. So it's okay to be putting our fingers in different spots when we're supposed to, and it's important to understand that they're not fixed in those spots where the tapes are. That was just to get you started. It's going to be different as we continue. So it seems kind of weird, but we're going to start on 13 and then jump back to 12. So if you look at the yellow box on the top of your page 13, you'll see that the new note is called G sharp. Okay, for everyone except the bass, this note is played on the D string. And when you play C sharp on the D string, when you play G sharp on the D string, you're going to have to move your finger to a different spot than it's normally been. So if you're a violin or a viola, you can look at that finger pattern that is written in that yellow box for you, and you'll see that you have your first finger, a space to your second finger, and then another space to your third finger. We call this note a high 3. So violins and violas, to play this note, you're going to do 1 finger, space to 2, and space to 3. If you have stickers on your instrument, your third finger will be higher or closer to you than where that sticker is. So you have to really stretch that third finger. If you're a cello, you can see this is what we call extended position. So when you play this on the cello, you're going to put your first finger where it always has been. You're going to stretch your second finger so it goes to where your third finger would normally be. So your second finger is where your third finger would normally be, and that gives your fourth finger a chance to stretch past where the fourth finger tape usually is, and that's how you get the note G sharp. Okay, bass, it's a little bit different. You have an open G string, so you're going to back your hand up and play in half position with your first finger, a G sharp. So we know how to play that note, and now we're going to look, let me just flip my page here, at number 52. Now, there's 2 different ways that the music could indicate for us to play G sharp. And we're going to look at the first one now, and that's simply that they would just put a sharp sign in front of the note. So if everyone looks at number 52, that first note there is called G sharp. Okay, we know the rule in music that if it's marked as an accidental, so a sharp or a flat or a natural in the measure, that every single note in that measure of that pitch, so like all of the G's, are also going to be sharp. So it's important that you recognize that. And we're going to play number 52 together. So set down your fingers so they're in the right spot. Make sure not just the G sharp is in the right spot, but all of your other fingers too. So it should sound like this. Okay. And here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you should feel those stretches between all of those fingers. Same deal with 53. This time we're going up. So you're starting with your first finger E, and we're traveling up. And so we're going to do that together right now. Remember those stretches. Cellos, make sure that you are using your second finger and not your third finger. So second finger goes where the third finger usually goes, but you're playing that note, that F sharp with 2. Here we go, 53. Ready, and here's a stretch. In violins and violas, if you were choosing to play fourth finger for that note A instead of going over to open A, which is awesome if you're choosing to do that, in this finger pattern, it is right next to your third finger. Those are the close notes, the half steps. Okay, last one that we're going to do on 13 before we jump back to 12, we'll finish 13 in a minute, is number 54. Okay, so we're starting with our E, and then it's a big, big stretch to that G sharp. Make sure that you're extending past where your G sharp, where your G or your 3-finger sticker, or 4 if you're a cello, normally would be. So here we go. 1, 2, ready, and. Good. So hopefully that's getting you used to the idea of stretching for that note. I know it feels a little bit different. The more you do it, the easier it'll get, though. So now we're going to page 12. I don't think you have to flip it all. I think it's right in the same 2 pages, 12 and 13. But on page 12, if you look at the top in the yellow box, you'll see that you have the note C sharp. Now, we've already learned how to play C sharp on the A string. That's just a regular second or third, if you're a cello, finger on the A string. This is C sharp on the G string, okay? And whether or not you realized it, when you normally play 3 fingers or 4 if you're a cello, that note is called C natural. And we didn't really talk about that a lot when you first learned it, but that note is called C natural. So in order to play C sharp, we're going to have to do that extension that we just talked about. So either the high 3 or the extended position. So this note should sound like this. Space to 2, space to 3. If I'm a cello, again, it's going to be 1. Second finger goes where the third finger normally goes, and then 4 can stretch up past where the fourth finger would normally go. Okay, so we're going to play a couple of these exercises. Same deal as with the G sharp. If they mark it as an accidental, then we have to play it as a C sharp. Okay, and in this case, it's the same thing. Actually, it's the exact same exercise we played with G sharp, but all of the C's are sharp in the measure if there's an accidental. Okay, so find that note, really stretch, and here's 48. Ready, and. Awesome. Okay, 49. Sorry, let me flip my page here. Same idea. We've kind of done stuff like this before. 49. Setting my first finger down. 1, 2. Here we go. Good, awesome. I'm just going to do one more. I'll skip 50. We'll do that in our lesson, but we're going to do 51, hot cross buns. So we're going to start now on that C sharp. Make sure your finger is right on that note. And we know what hot cross buns is supposed to sound like, so this is a good one to practice this new note. So 1, 2, here we go. Good, and in my book, and let me see if it's also in your book. Yes, in your book, you have a little check mark at the bottom of the page that kind of stands for a checkpoint or something that you should stop and look at as you're playing. And it says, were your C sharps in tune? So you have to be honest with yourself. You know what hot cross buns is supposed to sound like. And if it didn't sound correct, then maybe we have to go back. Sorry, I have like a hair out of place here. There we go. Maybe we have to go back and really stretch that finger. Normally the problem with C sharps and G sharps is that you're not stretching enough. It's pretty rare. Well, I don't want to say it's rare for students to stretch too much, but that does not happen as often. Okay. So now I'm going back to 13 because remember I said that there are two different ways that you could tell if they want you to play those notes as sharp, so the G's and the C's. And the first is if they mark it as a sharp, like with an accidental, but the other is if it's in your key signature. Okay, we play in a key signature that has C sharps all the time, the key of D major, that has two sharps, F and C. And you may or may not have noticed this, but we don't often play on the G string, or your third or fourth finger. We don't play that note C because it would have to be a C sharp, and we hadn't learned how to do that yet. So if you look at page 13, now I'm in the middle. It says theory, key signature, A major. This is a key signature that has three sharps. And anytime we have three sharps, the order is always the same, F, C, and G. It actually says that in the yellow box there. So it's F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. So actually both of those notes that we just learned are there. So anytime we get to a third finger on the G or D string, that's for violins and violas, cellos, anytime you get to a fourth finger, we need to play those with the extended position, with our sharp note. So if you take a look at 55, it's in the key of A major. Our first note is A, one finger on the G string. Our second note is B, that's either 2 or 3 fingers, depending on if you're a violin, viola, or a cello, okay? And then the third note is a C sharp, and that's when we have to play that extended or that stretched note. Okay, so this is an A major scale. This should sound like a major scale, just like how we could do the checkpoint on hot cross buns. You should be able to tell if this sounds like a major scale or if it sounds like something's off and something is not working. Okay, so here I go with 55, starting with one finger on G. 1, 2, ready, and. Here's another stretch. Stretch still. 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. Again, if that did not sound like an A major scale, then that's something that you should go back and work on. It means that probably you were not stretching those fingers enough, right? Okay, last is 56. I'm not going to talk a lot about this. I'm just going to play it so you can hear it. This is normally the last one on the page is like a challenge piece, and this is the same idea. It incorporates all of the things we just learned, the C sharps and the G sharps. It also has some slurs. It also has some different rhythms. So I'm going to play it for you, and you can challenge yourself to try to get number 56. So here I go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. So that's a start to playing these extended 3 or extended 4 notes, these C sharps and G sharps. If it's a little bit tough right now, that is okay. We'll keep practicing these in class, in pieces we're working on, and also I believe as this book keeps going, you keep having those notes. So if you have any questions, let me know, but we'll work on this at your next lesson.